hello, hello, hello. Hi, RuPaul.
Hello, hello, hello. And then I can just hear all the queens going, ah! How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, my darling. How are you doing? It's my birthday week. And I should have looked up.
It is your birthday week.
I should have looked up, like, what episodes of Doctor Who were on for my birthday. I don't know. Shall I delegate that to the listeners?
Let me have a look. Hold on.
April the 28th. But you know that because you're a good friend.
Yes, of course I do. When's my birthday?
Oh, no, don't.
Don't do that. I'll save you the hassle. It's the 9th of July. There you go, listeners.
I thought it was around then.
Evolution of the Daleks aired on BBC One on the 28th of April 2007.
Oh.
There you go.
I don't remember watching that live at all. I was too busy with all my friends.
Well, happy birthday for this week. I'd say, do you have any big plans? But I know what they are because I'm going to be there for them.
Karaoke, baby. I'm hoping this time they'll have Song for 10 on the karaoke machine. Every time they seem to just have lost it.
See, I will keep asking for Angel Put the Devil in Me, and they'll keep saying no, but I will keep asking.
But no, it's fine. Honestly, I can put it on YouTube. It's fine. If we'd bought up just a few more tickets, we maybe could have persuaded the venue to give us the YouTube option.
Yeah, but we do have friends that also host events at these places. Reese from the Gallifrey Cabaret and Carrot, they've hosted at this venue before, so maybe we can slip them a $5 and see what they can do.
Slip them a $5. We know people have hosted here. Can you get up YouTube? We're connected. I don't think that's going to work. Well, it's a really fun episode this week. I watched it earlier today and I loved it. I had a lot of fun watching this one.
Me too. No, honestly, I watched it at the beginning of the day today to kind of give myself some time to it's a funny one. I tend not to jump to rewatching Series 8 and Series 9 that much because I don't think I loved it on air. So I'm like, oh, it's not one I'm going to go rewatch. But as I'm watching more and more of it, it's bloody great. They're bloody great.
There's a lot of gems in there. I think this is really, really a good one. And then it had the Next Time trailer. I've forgotten the name of the next one. It's the forest one where London becomes a forest or the whole UK becomes one giant forest. That wasn't a great episode. I saw the Next Time and I was like, oh, not sure about
thought that too. I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this. And the next week it's like, you're in London. He's like, this is a forest, Clara. And I was like, it's that with
it was just like that. That was exactly it.
That was the trailer.
They're in a forest, Clara. That's exactly how
Clara!
It sounded.
What's something that Capaldi can say, and I'll see if I can become the new Jacob Dubman and take his job at Big Finish. What's something 12 says in this episode?
I haven't heard anyone do a good Capaldi impression convincingly.
I have listened to, I think I showed you a clip of it, to one Big Finish with Jacob where he plays 11 and 12. His 11's just impeccable. And his 12, it's hard to do a 12. But there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh, this is really, really good. And then there's moments where I'm like, oh, I can hear it's not Capaldi, but I'm not an impressionist either, so what can I say?
Do you want to try and do the monologue about I'm the man who stops the monsters, or do you think you'll just leave that to Peter?
Oh no, that's way too much. I'll leave that to Peter. What's
too much.
Says
that is the role you are to
tell. Fluorescent pudding brain.
Yeah, a lighter one. Well, you know what's nice though? You know what's nice about this silly show is we're on episode 75 now of Wholala, and we're still finding little gems that we're digging out.
We are.
Because we gave ourselves some that were like the nostalgia trip. I think early on we burnt through quite a lot of those. And then we eventually were like, it's time. We're going to do the series 4 finale. And we did those. And we're still coming back to episodes. We're like, oh, this was brilliant, actually.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's a good way for me to stop myself from jumping towards the episodes that I'm clinging to nostalgia for, whether they're good or bad. I'll have to say I'm an apologist for all good Doctor Who and all bad Doctor Who, but it's making me rewatch some stuff that I wouldn't jump to rewatch, and I'm really enjoying it, gotta say.
We're quite good at even finding the good side of pretty mid episodes as well. We're quite good at being generous, I think, with what they were going for. You can kind of you can see it.
You can kind of see it.
You can see it.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I love good Doctor Who. I love bad Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I really love. I love new episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh, nothing is as exciting as watching new Doctor Who.
Exactly. And where you know where we're going to watch it this time. We're watching it together.
Oh, yeah, we're watching it together this time. I might begin by having a little peek at midnight because it's coming out at a funny time on iPlayer first, but it is still streaming live on BBC One and iPlayer at 7 p.m. on Saturday, the 11th of May. Where are you going to be for that?
And probably for the midnight one, I was debating, do I watch it at midnight when it drops or do I watch it in the morning first thing? I think I'm just going to have to watch it at midnight and bite the bullet.
Yeah.
But then we have some rather fun plans for the evening of Saturday the 11th as well.
We've got some really fun plans. What we've done in the past, Sam, and though I try to be the hostess with the mostess, is have everyone in at our flat, which is becoming increasingly difficult because we don't want to leave anyone out, and also we have a very small space to work with, and my oven can only take so many pizzas at once. Luckily, this time around, our friends at the Clapham Grand can host. We said, can you host? They said, we can host. And they are hosting a double episode screening and a live cabaret show featuring, of course, Gallifrey Cabaret. Who else? It's going to be absolutely spectacular, live on Saturday the 11th of May.
Yes, they're screening the first 2 episodes of Shooty's series at the Clapham Grand. There'll be intergalactic cocktails, prizes for the best cosmic costumes, and we'll be there.
I will be there. Finally, we don't have to feel that we're kind of leaving you out of our watch-alongs. So you can come and watch along with us.
Listen, I make the invite list for our watch-alongs that we host at home, and I go through the Wholala listeners, I go through the people following us on Twitter, and I just can't fit you all in our flat. So you're going to have to come to the Grand.
My biggest regret ever is that I didn't see, that's a bit dramatic, that I didn't see the 50th anniversary live with an audience, because they did that in the XL, and I've always wanted to see an episode of Doctor Who with a big live audience, and we kind of almost scratched that itch, I think, with the 60th specials, but I think this will be a really special night together, and I'm really looking forward to it.
No, me too, exactly. And we don't want you, dear listener, to miss out on the opportunity, so we may be hosting a little giveaway.
Oh, a little giveaway. Yes, our friends at the Clapham Grand have done us a little deal here. They've done us a deal. You can win a table for 4 and a bottle of Prosecco. It's on us. And to be in with a chance to win, all you have to do is go to the Wholala Pod Instagram, follow us and follow the Clapham Grand, like the post that we've got over on Instagram, tag 3 friends you'd like to have on your table, and if you'd like a bonus entry as well, you can share the post to a story.
Yes, please do go ahead to @WholalaPod on Instagram to enter. Entries close 3rd of May. You must be over 18 and a citizen of the UK, or make yourself available in the UK to claim the prize at the Clapham Grand.
Yes, please be a grown-up. You must be over 18, I'm sorry. Well, Sam, that's all well and good, but what are we going to do in the meantime?
Well, we could listen to the back catalogue of Wholala.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's quite a lot of it now.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Or we could watch Series 8, Episode 9 of Doctor Who, Flatline.
Oh, let's do that, because we've already done it.
Let's do that. Well, you know what? You and I, in preparation for this, which I'm glad we've done, because we're about to do an hour podcast about it, we have watched Flatline, and I'm so excited to talk about it. I really enjoyed it.
I am too. This is a great episode. As always, we heavily recommend go back, head to iPlayer, watch the episode, and then you can have some fun listening and chatting with us. And we'd love to hear what you think over @WholalaPod on X and Instagram as well. Let us know what you think.
Exactly. Please let us know what you think. Now, Flatline aired on the 18th of October 2014 to a viewership of 6.71 million and an IMDb score, a very comfortable IMDb score of 8.3 out of 10. Now, as Alistair said, we always recommend just go on iPlayer, go on Disney Plus if it's there. I don't actually think it's there, but go wherever you can find it and just watch the episode. But if you haven't seen it in a while and you want a little refresher, here is a recap of the story. While trying to bring Clara back to London, the Doctor discovers that the TARDIS is being drained of energy, diverting them, instead, to Bristol. The TARDIS shrinks externally due to the energy loss, and while Clara investigates, it shrinks down to the size of a character options TARDIS playset with the Doctor still inside. Clara decides it's her turn to be the Doctor, so with the real Doctor in her ear, she meets graffiti artist Rigsy and tells him that she's Doctor Oswald. They start to investigate a group of recent disappearances, and soon realise that it's linked to the sudden appearance of strange murals in the area.
Working under an MI5 alias, they investigate one of the missing people along with PC Forrest, who is soon absorbed by the Boneless, 2-dimensional aliens who are learning about our 3-dimensional world. Clara and Rigsy escape, though she can't escape a phone call with Danny, who doesn't know she's still with the Doctor. The Boneless mural soon learn how to take on a 3-dimensional shape, and Clara lures them to a train yard, though they soon become trapped themselves.
The TARDIS gets dropped in front of a train, but with some quick handiwork by the Doctor's hand, it pulls an Addams Family it and crawls out the way. However, by keeping the TARDIS protected, it's used up all its energy and both him and the TARDIS are seemingly doomed. To restore its power, Clara tricks the Boneless into flooding the TARDIS with their energy, and the Doctor uses the energy to repel it back onto the Boneless and send them home. After saving the day and saying their goodbyes to Rigsy and the others, Clara tries to get the Doctor to tell her that she did a good job being him, though he warns her that although she was excellent, being good has nothing to do with it.
Well, let's dive into some tweets.
Yes, exactly. Now, we reached out to you on our X account, again, @WholalaPod, to ask what you thought of the episode, and we had some really great replies.
We did. Ethan, friend of the pod. It's becoming a meme at this point. Ethan, friend of the pod, said, I adore Experimental Who. I love how Clara is forced to take up the Doctor mantle and she feels the burden of being responsible for keeping people safe. I like to think this episode is what triggers the addiction she went down in Series 9, where she wants to be like the Doctor.
Exactly. Dragzilla said, for me, this episode heavily foreshadows Face the Raven, which I really appreciate.
At Phoenix24 says, innovative. Clever. This is like 60s stuff. Planet of Giants, The Rescue, The Mind Robber.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not an expert in Classic Who, but those of you who are, give us a nod if you agree.
Tap the fucking table. Kitty says, I always think it was genius of Sarah Dollard to have Rigsy be the returning side character from Series 8 in Face the Raven, because he was Doctor Oswald's companion. So when Clara faces the fate for becoming too Doctor-esque, it's her companion that sets the events in motion. That's so true. I never really thought about
that comment. I love that comment. I've never thought about that reading of it. We'll come back to it because I think that's brilliant. I love the levels we get. We always like go in and we make all our notes for the episode, then we do a little shout out and we say, oh, by the way, guys, what do you think? And then we come back with all these brilliant readings of it. And no one else has had to do the rewatch either. Everyone's just got these feelings ready to go.
Literally.
You want my theories? So let's dive into some highs and lows.
Well, one high that I want to dive into, if I could be so bold,
go on, be bold.
Is the cold open. I love when Doctor Who has a cold open. And what I love about this one is that within the first, 45 seconds, we know who the villain is. We know what kind of story we're getting. We understand the threat. We get a payoff later in the episode. We don't know too much. And it really just teases what the whole story is going to be. But like within that first pre-title sequence, we already know everything we can expect from the episode without having anything like spoiled for us. And I just think that's so smart.
Yeah. What's interesting about this one on rewatch is it actually has a bit of a Wild Blue Yonder vibe to it, in the kind of dimension warping, creatures from beyond our reality, body horror, and it sets up in a similar way. We have this bloke who for some reason is calling the police, thinking that's kind of the solution to these things in his house. And unfortunately, the poor man is absorbed into his wall and stretched out into this horrible shape where he's kind of stuck in a scream in the wall. And you can actually like hear his distorted scream as it goes into the titles, which is really creepy.
I know.
Just on the right side of creepy, that it's Doctor Who and kid friendly, but it's icky.
It's icky. Creepy is the word I found myself saying the most when I was writing my notes this episode. There's so many moments in this, both in the villain and also just what's going on plot-wise, that is creepy. And I think that's a really good point you made, that it never quite crosses that line between being scary. It keeps itself being creepy without being scary, which I think is quite well written.
Yeah. You could so easily twist this into a true horror plot. Like, same villains, same setup, same place. In fact, you could just take the events that happened before the Doctor arrived as like a bit of like a horrible survival story, like a horror with a bad ending, because everyone who's kind of trapped in the murals has actually died.
One thing that I would do if I was going to make it full horror is I'd have them walk into a room and think nothing's up with the room, and then the room's like painted red, and then you realise it's not painted red. It's red with the blood of the victim, and the red walls are actually blood.
What? There's one bit in this, they can't find someone, and they're like, oh, what if he's still in the room? I don't know that they do find him, but
no, they do. Clara. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go on. Where do they find him?
So it's when is it the bit you're talking about? The bit where Clara's like, maybe he's small under the sofa, maybe, and she's like,
where is he?
They think it's a mural of sand, and it's zoomed in on his skin.
Oh, it is his skin. I thought I was being clever and noticing that. Clearly, that was when I looked down at my laptop and wasn't watching. I was like, I get it. It's skin. Yeah, so I love that scary bit. The really freaky bit was poor PC Forrest, her demise. She was sucked through the floor screaming, and one of her, I don't know how they achieved this either with the effects. The effects in this were amazing. Her leg gets sucked through the floor, but her other leg isn't. So she's kind of like leaning as well and getting dragged in. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna like break her legs or something. She's screaming into the floor, and then she gets kind of sucked up before Clara and Rigsy can get to her. And then the horrible reveal is that her nervous system is flattened and plastered in the wall.
So gross.
It's disgusting. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so many moments in that. In fact, I'll pivot to it while I'm on it. The VFX in this episode as well I just think were so good. They were so solid, and I think they'd hold up now. The sofa being dissolved in the room when they realize like the room is collapsing around them, and it kind of like just collapses and turns into paint on the wall, looked really good. And there's a moment near the end, George, who's part of their group of people doing community service.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Like, George? And he looks like he's just kind of frozen, and then she kind of like moves around him, and you can see he's actually like split across a few objects, and it's like a parallax illusion.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, like George is being flattened.
I know.
But
George is flat.
George is flat. Just really cool effects, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's so cool. I really like when, like, I mean, I know we're jumping around a bit story-wise, but when they flattened the door handle and they have to use that device to kind of 3D, it kind of like glitches in and out of being 3D, 2D, and they zap it back. I think, like you said, that it's something that older visual effects can hold up to quite well because it's meant to be that weird world between 2D and 3D, which I think when you're trying to do hyper-realistic animation, it kind of can trip itself up, whereas for this it's the perfect kind of monster to have in that world because I like what I like about this monster, even beyond the visual effects, is that we never really find out what they are. Like the Doctor at the end goes like, and I name you the Boneless, but like that's just a name you came up with, sir. You don't know who they are. And I like that there's a really great dialogue to talk about the monsters for a moment earlier where the Doctor is saying about he knows a geisha species that throw fireballs to say hello, and he's like, we're jumping to assume that they even know they're hurting us. They might not even know. We don't want to meet them with aggression when they could just be trying to communicate with us. But then as the episode slowly goes on, he's like, I think you know exactly what you're doing.
I was going to say exactly that. What I like is the progression in this episode where the threat of the monster keeps changing. It sort of slowly builds. Initially it's kind of like fascinating to the Doctor, and they're like, ooh, let's see what's up, let's poke around, let's play detective, let's take the Sonic, let's pretend I'm MI5, and let's have a little look around. And there's this trying to understand, what does it want, what does it do, how does it understand us? And they've been quite generous with it as well. They're like, oh, maybe it doesn't understand 3D, maybe it's trying to talk to us, maybe it's trying to da-da-da-da-da. Maybe they don't even know they're hurting us. And there's that dialogue then when Clara's like, the Doctor's like, maybe they don't even know they're hurting us. And Clara says, do you really believe that? And he says, no, I really hope that. And then later it's like, oh, they have a new ability, and they keep sort of leveling up as they develop their skills and they learn more. And then it all culminates in that speech that Capaldi gives, which is, I think a lot of people say his I'm the Doctor moment. And for them, that was their like, that's my guy, that's my Doctor.
Moment. Yeah.
And him saying like, I tried to understand you, but I think you understand us perfectly. And I think you just don't care. And I don't know whether you are here to invade, infiltrate, or just replace us. I don't suppose it really matters now. You are monsters.
I know what people mean about how that was one of Capaldi's like defining Doctor moments. But my note for that scene is I just felt like he was really stealing Clara's thunder in the episode, like in the placement of where we were. Because, I mean, the reason we chose this episode to watch is because we came off the back of a Clara Oswald episode last week and we wanted to look at like a very Clara episode. And I feel like, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a moment, but Clara as the Doctor, playing the Doctor, is like the person that carries this whole episode. And in the end of the day, the Doctor is doomed. The Doctor, if left alone, will die with the TARDIS. And it's Clara's foresight and thought and ingenuity that saves the day. And then what happens at the end, the Doctor comes back and gives a speech and then quote unquote saves the day. And Clara just kind of stands behind him. And I felt like that kind of like stole her thunder a little bit.
I liked that he stole her thunder, though, at the end. For me, that felt very intentional to be like, you can get it so far, you can take us all the way up to this point, you can look after this group, but ultimately you can't stop the monsters. And that's, you can play the Doctor, and you can do a very good imitation of who I am, but you can't finish the job. That's me. So it was almost like you can get it to the point of charging the TARDIS, but Clara on her own can't send back monsters to another dimension. Yet.
No, I get that. Yeah. No, I get that. I just felt like I wish that it was like he was stood there with Clara and he was like, because of what Clara did, now I'm able to do this. Whereas it was more like an I am the Doctor and you are the monsters kind of thing. But I do get what you mean. It's like we are aware that Clara isn't the Doctor.
Yes.
And I didn't really realise until rewatching some of this series, because series 9 I think is one where she really starts to become like the Doctor, but series 8, the penultimate episode, is the one where it ends with her talking to the Cybermen saying, I'm the Doctor. And in this, she's like, well, I guess I'm the Doctor. And I was like, oh, this really was like peppered throughout, wasn't it?
It really was. It was peppered in. And I really like it. I think they were building a good arc with the kind of theme of becoming the Doctor and the consequences of it. And I like that this is maybe the first time that the Doctor starts to disapprove of it as well. He kind of goes back and forth on it a bit in this one. When he thinks he's dying and he's not sure if Clara can hear him, he's in the TARDIS and kind of talking to no one. He's like, oh, and you were good and you made a mighty fine Doctor. And then when he's back, he's really not so quick to congratulate her. And she really has to push it out of him. And then it becomes the whole kind of am I a good man arc, which I really did not enjoy that much.
No, not at all. I had as one of my notes that I just found it so boring when he goes into the like whole thing about like, am I a good man, Clara? When he was saying like, oh, you were an excellent Doctor, but good had nothing to do with it. I was like, oh, this is so boring. Like, I just think it's like, we've talked about in the podcast before about how if you weigh up all of the good the Doctor's done to all of the bad he's done, the good far outweighs the bad. So the question is whether or not he's a good man. It's kind of null and void because he's a man that does good things, or a person that does good things, or an alien that does good things.
Yeah.
And I just get really fed up with this whole I'm a good man thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an interesting storyline for this series. And I'm glad they kind of drop it at the end of this one.
The good man question, like, it was for me like a question that kind of had to be explored fully at some point, but I feel like they kind of done, because they had this whole kind of back and forth with like the worst parts of the 10th Doctor's personality and his ego and his god complex, and the worst part of the 11th Doctor's narcissism and all of that as well. And then it was kind of coming back to it again, and like, am I really good? Am I a hero? And, you know, on some level interesting, but for like a whole series long discussion, and I don't know, the conclusion was kind of like, I'm not good or bad, I'm just doing my best.
Yeah, and I feel like the angle he was coming at through the whole season is that he was saying, I'm not a good man, prove me wrong. And it's like, it's not my job to prove you wrong. Like, you can deal with your trauma yourself, you know what I mean? I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That's okay. I do think, however, that there's a lot of good lines that the Doctor gets in this episode, even though the good man thing isn't my favourite. He does get a lot of corkers. I like that when he's trapped really early on, he's in the TARDIS that's shrunk, and Clara's just holding a laugh, and he's like, stop laughing, this is serious. Yeah. And then when she meets Rigsy and he calls him a fluorescent pudding brain, and she's like, he can hear you, and he's like, I know. I just think that was really funny. There's also one bit where Rigsy kind of becomes her surrogate companion, and she's sort of pushing them towards the adventure, and the Doctor goes, you really do throw your companions in at the deep end, don't you?
Yes, I loved that as well. I thought he had some real corkers in this episode too. When I said before that I found kind of grumpy Capaldi quite a jarring transition from, you know, jovial, sweet 11 and the kind of very
swashbuckling 10.
Yeah, but like even just like the soft interactions he had with Clara, a very sort of gentle way of being with her, and then becoming just kind of very cold, and I'm not really a hugs guy, and this is Clara, she cares so I don't have to, and all that. I actually started to enjoy it a lot more in this story. I don't know if the balance was maybe just a bit more right. There was so Clara going on about, I can't remember what she was going on about at the start of the episode, and he said, sorry, I stopped listening a while ago. What? And I just found that quite funny. He was just quite, because he is listening, he's bantering with a friend, and it kind of works a bit better. And the whole thing as well, when the TARDIS is shrinking, and she's like, oh, that is impressive. And she's like, no, this is impressive. This is annoying. And he's kind of waving at her face, was really funny. Yeah. And then, even when he's ordering her to get out of the TARDIS and he has to stay in and try and fix things, and he's like, I wouldn't like you to get swished accidentally. Even the way he says it, it's just quite like, this is quite blunt, but it's not, it doesn't contradict the character. It's just a sassier version of the Doctor that could have also been maybe delivered by maybe like the first and third. There's a bit of like a return to the grumpy old man, but it's not like acting like I don't care, acting like I'm not compassionate. Yeah,
well, this is the thing, because there's so much good in 12, and I think we were probably, I'd be a bit scared to listen back to our review of the 12th Doctor, because I think we were quite, like, harsh and rich. We had a lot of people being like, oh my god, the GOAT Doctor, can't wait to listen to this, and then an hour later being like, how could you betray me like this? And I think that there is a lot of negatives that I find in, not like Peter Capaldi's portrayal, but just like in the way that the character's written and the way it's portrayed. But there is so much good, and the good does outweigh the negative.
Yeah.
And I find myself, when I look back on it without watching it, just focusing on the bad and be like, oh, not my favorite, not this, not that. And it's when I rewatch episodes like this where I'm like, oh my God, like the grumpiness does work. The quips are quipping. Like he is actually a very funny Doctor in his grumpiness. It's bits with like the cue cards and the, oh, I can't tell if you're wearing any makeup or not. Like it's that where I'm like, oh, this is where the character like dips for me.
It's when it took it to that point of being like pretending to be naive to people's feelings. And then it was kind of explored a bit in Mummy on the Orient Express as well, where it was like, is that how you think of me? Do you think I'm unkind? Do you think I'm calculating? Do you think I'm... And it kind of delves into like, do you think that's really who I am? Or do you think that's an act? Or do you like to think that's an act? And it kind of explores that a bit more, but I don't know. I'm not super into it. I found it funny just when he was a bit kind of towering over humans in a bit of a funny way. When Clara's like, oh, this is Rigsy. And he's like, hello, barely sentient local.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny to be had in it. Like, it's not that I need the Doctor to always be like Doctors before and always be chipper and this and that and the other. Like, I think that's really, really funny, but I just forget that it happened. And maybe that's just because I've not rewatched this era that much, but there's so much humour to the Doctor in this season that I think I forget about.
I would love to see the version of Series 11 Doctor Who where they decided to keep a very dry humour with Jodie Whittaker. I'd love to see Jodie Whittaker deliver hello barely sentient local to like Yaz or Dan or anyone.
I can fully imagine her saying that to Dan. If you had told me that was a line, hello there. No, I'm not even going to try and do a Jodie Whittaker accent, but like I can imagine her delivering that line to Dan, which says more about Dan, I think, than Jodie.
Or if Yaz had a moment of, I'm the Doctor, and I'd been like, don't you dare. It'd be funny to imagine that dynamic done with her Doctor, because it doesn't seem out of place with maybe like a 9 or even maybe a 10, but
no, 10's too in love with himself to think that the Doctor's a flawed character, I think.
Yeah, I mean, moments of like being cutting with a companion, you know, a little dig. Maybe he would have done it with Mickey. Well, I mean, he does that with Mickey.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess with Mickey. Oh, look at that. It's Mickey the Idiot. Like
Mickey the Idiot. Exactly. Yeah. He could have pulled that off as well. Yeah, maybe they should have given a little bit of that to 13 would be nice.
Well, speaking about the Doctor, I think we should spend a bit more time going back on Doctor Oswald, because I think that is, for me, one of the biggest highs of the episode.
Yes, Doctor Oswald. I had lots to say about Clara the Doctor. I really enjoy Clara the Doctor. And I do really like as well this exploration, we kept coming back to it, of like how far can a companion go imitating the Doctor successfully. And Clara manages to get kind of a pretty good impression of the Doctor down, and it obviously impresses him as well. Maybe alarms him, but does impress him. And yeah, she got the confidence and the quips right as well from the go with Rigsy, which was really funny when it was like, "Don't you dare!" And she's like, I'm the Doctor. So, oh, Doctor of what? Oh, well, I'm usually quite vague about that. I think I just picked the title because it makes me sound important.
It's funny and it's true.
And it's true, and it's cutting, and it's a good friendship, two people who really know each other and can read each other.
Yeah. I had this note that said, it's really interesting because she thinks she knows what it takes to be the Doctor, and she does, but she also doesn't, but she also really does.
Yeah.
Where, like, all of that stuff about the Doctor is true, and he kind of, like, catches her on it later where he's like, oh, well, you think that's what I am. And like you said, the Mummy in the Orient Express is a really good example of that, where she was telling him, or she's realising what it takes to be the Doctor. And he's like, you don't. He's basically like, baby, you're not scratched the surface. You don't know what it takes to be me. But I think she kind of almost surprises the Doctor in that moment where he's listening to her list all that stuff, and he's like, oh crap, she read me down. Yeah. But it's exactly as you said, that it is like two friends reading each other almost. Like,
yeah,
it's funny because it's true and it's harsh, but it's not necessarily mean. I like the bit where she says, oh, does that mean I'm you now? When he gives her the sonic and the psychic paper. And I think it's just both good foreshadowing for the episode and also like her arc as a whole. It makes me wonder like how much of it they did have planned, because I know they weren't exactly sure how long Jenna was going to be in the role. I wonder if Stephen was planting the seeds for like, oh, okay, if we do get her for another season, like this will get a payoff.
Yeah, just in case. The best moment, I think, of her kind of I am the Doctor act was, fine, I'll tell you who I am. I'm the one chance you've got of staying alive. That's who I am. And then over the earpiece, he's like, oh, well done. And it's a bit like she just did this perfect Ninth Doctor bit and managed to kind of shut up the most annoying human. And he's like, oh, wow. Yeah, that was the correct thing to say.
No notes. I know that was the bit for me where I was like, oh, she is like the Doctor in this episode. I kind of wish that the Doctor wasn't in her ear the whole time, so I feel like it almost undermines her ability to try and be the Doctor, because then we get moments where he's like, do you want the good news or the bad news? And she's like, we're in the bad news. I'm living in the bad news.
I'm living the bad news was a great line.
I'm living the bad news.
That's a great line in this. A really well-written story. And there is a nice moment, I guess, where she gets that. The earpiece kind of eventually cuts out because the TARDIS is just on its knees. And she is like, what would you do now? No, what will I do now? And then she kind of has to decide what Clara does to save the day. But then even in doing that, she still references back the rules of being the Doctor. So we have rule 1 of being the Doctor, use your enemy's powers against them, which as far as I know is never a rule that he's outlined to her. That's her observation of him. It's not the same as rule 1 of traveling with the Doctor lies, but it's rule 1 of being the Doctor, which is clearly a little, I guess, a rule set that she's been working on all this time or thinking about.
Yeah, I can imagine her we see at the end of the season that she has been like watching the Doctor and she knows what he does and his routine and where he puts things and how he does stuff. And I can imagine this whole time she's kind of learning, she's soaking it up. And I can imagine her, even at this point, wanting to somewhat be the Doctor. One of my favourite scenes from this is when Rigsy tries to sacrifice himself because they need the train to drive into the Boneless. And Clara says, oh, well, can we put it on autopilot? What can we do? And Rigsy comes on and starts the train to sacrifice himself in this big noble death. And she jumps on and she's kind of like, what are you doing? And he's like, no, don't stop me. I'm going to do this. And she's like, right, okay. Well, I was just going to put my hairband on there. He's like, no, I'm going to do this. She's like, all right, well, when you've died in your noble sacrifice, I'll look at this hairband and think of all of the effort you went into dying to save it. And I'll remember you. Then he's kind of like, oh. I just think that's so good.
And then in the end, I quite like that hairband.
I like that hairband. Yeah, it's so funny. I have a note that just says, these damn trains just keep on coming.
They just keep on coming. They're efficient in Bristol. Maybe that's like a distinction with where they did a bit of a moment in The Power of the Doctor where Yaz has to pilot the TARDIS in the absence of the Doctor because the Master has stolen the Doctor's body. And I think she looks at either a note or something she's written on her hand, which is, what would the Doctor do? I think she does that. Did I imagine that? And
I think so.
It's a shame, I guess, that there wasn't that same moment of actually, it doesn't matter what the Doctor would do. What would Yaz do? And it takes it above just imitation and I'm capable of doing this too, but through to I'll do it in my way.
I think at the time as well in 2014, I think there's something important about the solution being a hairband, because obviously we've gone further with the character of the Doctor now, and the Doctor is all genders and no genders and everything. But I think especially with Capaldi's Doctor, having the solution be something that the Doctor would never have on them at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
I think, and a distinctly feminine product.
That's true.
Using sort of air quotes that. I think there's something to be said with that too. Clara is okay, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm doing. And I think that's just a very physical embodiment of that mentality.
Yeah, you could have had the Doctor whip out a piece of string, but you're right, it's not the same. It's nice that it's a realistic thing she can do, just being resourceful.
Yeah, exactly. And I that she has to be resourceful, and like you said about outsmart them and using their power against them. What the solution to the problem is that Clara has to think on her feet and use her brains and her wits to outsmart them and come up with a proper plan. It's not, I think the thing with the hairband, it's really, really great, but it's kind of an on the fly, right, here's what we can do. Whereas with the painting of the door, it's okay, no, I have a plan.
A bit that really made me laugh. The Doctor is in Clara's ear while she's investigating the first house, while they're still trying to find out, where do these people go? And she's having all these theories ahead of the Doctor about, oh no, Rigsy's having the theories. Rigsy is setting up these theories about, so when people go missing, right? They're still inside the house. like, they're in the walls. And then the Doctor realizes, like, they're in the walls. And then he hands through the TARDIS this massive sledgehammer to Clara. And the police officer turns around and suddenly Clara is just holding this sledgehammer. And she's like, apparently they're in the walls.
It was so funny. I felt really sorry for that police officer.
And then the
whacking on the wall.
PC thing used to go off and go, apparently she's MI5.
Yeah, and then just like, maybe we're not doing enough. And I was like, no, you're not. Sorry, darling. I looked up MI5 after this because I knew it was, but I'm always in this moment of like, is this one of those real spy things or one of those fake spy things?
MI7.
And then obviously MI9. It's real, yeah. Well, MI5 is real and you can apply for a job. They have a careers page.
Yes, I know, darling.
Maybe I'll become a spy.
MI5 is like home
government
affairs, like UK things. MI6 is abroad and spying.
What's MI1?
I think MI1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. I think a lot of them did exist, but in the war, and now they don't. And now whenever they do something like a CBBC show, like MI High, I think they were like MI7 or 9. And so they just come up with these like, we're the other MI.
Okay, so MI1 is administration. MI2 is information on the Middle and Far East, Scandinavia, Central South America. Again, like you said, this is all
They're not now.
Yeah. Current status: reorganize. Functions absorbed into MI13. The youngest of the numbers, MI5, is the one that's still active. MI6, like you said, liaison with secret intelligence. MI7, press and propaganda. MI8, cable censorship. MI9, postal censorship. MI10, foreign military attachments. It goes on and on and on. It goes to MI19.
That's too many.
MI High. That's my favorite.
MI High was great. I had a crush on several of the characters, both Blaine and Rose, if you remember those.
One funny thing that I thought in this episode, well, two funny things I'll actually say. The TARDIS.
Oh, the TARDIS. Yeah, and he was like,
I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And another thing, it's not about the TARDIS. It's about where they are. I like that the episode is set in Bristol. It's not somewhere that, to my knowledge, they've really set a Doctor Who episode before. I like when they go to places outside of London or Cardiff, like outside London or Wales. Yeah. One thing that I didn't love is that I think that the accents, I'd be so surprised if any of those actors are from Bristol, because it feels like they just gave the brief to sound like a farmer, because every single person is talking like this.
They went a bit Cornish. They went a bit too far
They
west,
went a little bit too... Yeah, it felt like they were going more into... I have a vivid memory. I did an internship once at Ardman, which is based in Bristol, and I had like a host family while I was staying there, and she really did sound like that. She was really farmer-esque, and she kept saying to me, she was like, everyone always tells me I'm a Bristol girl, but I'm not a Bristol girl, I'm a Gloucester girl.
A Gloucester girl. Like, I love that.
I was like, right. But that's what this made me think of. I was like, these accents are thick.
Yeah, they were thick. I think some Bristolian accents, they're just that thick.
I'm sure some are, but every single character in this, and then suddenly Rigsy was from London. Rigsy was just from London.
Oh, you know what? I liked Rigsy. I thought Rigsy was a good character. He was fun.
I really liked Rigsy. I thought it was really... I'm glad that Rigsy comes back.
I'm glad Rigsy comes back. He was good. He was a nice little tag-along for the team, I think.
Yeah. I feel like this era tends to have a lot of tag-alongs in the TARDIS. There's another character who's a student at Clara's school.
Oh, yeah, she gets
joins the team. Yeah, I think... They introduce her in this season, and then she comes... Yeah, it is this season, because it's in Kill the Moon. She's in Kill the Moon, the caretaker. But they get quite a lot of, like, tag-alongs. And I feel like Rigsy's one that is one of those companions that could have been.
When will it be my time to be a companion? I feel like I should be one at some point.
I loved your tweet where you said that your boyfriend sat you down and told you that you might not have the acting credentials to be a companion on Doctor Who.
I asked him quite seriously, like, do you think I'd be a good companion on Doctor Who? And I just wanted him to say yes. And he was like, well, it's not that you wouldn't. He's like, it's just that you haven't got any experience acting, and, and I was just like, wow, that's a reality check for me. That's a shame.
Okay.
In my head, I think that's still going to happen for me. Like, if it has to happen to me when, John Bishop is, at like a John Bishop age, I don't know, I can do it later. Fine. Like, I'll do it when I have to do it.
But you will do it.
I really want Ambika Mod to be Doctor Who companion very badly from One Day.
She would be a really good companion. She'd be very, very good.
A good companion.
Yeah.
If I could have a dream TARDIS team, it would be Ncuti's Doctor, me and her as a little 3.
So you're going to be a companion for series 3 of Ncuti era?
Or 4, if he'll do it.
Yeah, maybe 4. Yeah. Well, it sounds like 3 is coming.
Yeah, and it does. And if I could stay for the handover into the next Doctor's era with that, me and Abby get together, that'd be really good.
Yeah, that'd be good. I feel like it's good when like I like the idea of a companion. I quite like that Clara's only there for a half season of Matt Smith, but I like the idea of a companion being there for a full series, like Rose, transition, and then at the start of the next series, they stay, but they bring on another person.
Yeah.
So there's like a new person in the mix, a new Doctor, but an old companion. So for the audience, we're really following like this new companion as the fresh eyes, but we're seeing it as well with the old companion as like the grounding, you know? I feel like kind of the Paternoster Gang with that role in Deep Breath.
It's nice to have someone kind of hold your hand, take you through into a new era, isn't it? And
or
experience the change with you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. I was surprised, I guess, with this arc, going back to the episode we're on, that this was series 8 and not 9. I think, like you've said, really, yeah, like with the peppering of this story arc of like becoming the Doctor, going too far, getting a bit cocky, getting a bit overconfident, getting comfortable with the danger. I felt that was so linked to Clara's Face the Raven exit. When I was looking for this episode, I was looking through the series 9 episodes. I was like, where is it? And I just found it a very interesting early kind of look at that, I guess.
Yeah. No, that is it. I think you said it right, that it is so linked to, and the Wholala list has said it as well, that it is so linked to Face the Raven and Clara's later arc, especially, well, even directly with Rigsy, that it does feel like it could belong very well in series 9, but I am glad it's in series 8, and I think it fits quite well where it does. I kind of forget where episodes in series 8, like I know that we start with Deep Breath and we end in Death in Heaven, and every other episode is a pendulum of like, it could be anywhere in the series.
The fact that you can't remember is why they needed it here. Because this is a good, memorable episode to prop up some of the others. Speaking of prop,
oh, I know where you're going with this.
The props in this, such fun. Such fun. The first one, when it shrinks down just a bit, but they can still get out, and it's like a kid-sized TARDIS.
Yeah,
I actually think is kind of a perfect size. I think there's something
to have in the house.
Just anyway. I think it's so dinky and funny. I wouldn't be mad if everyone had to get into a TARDIS of that size.
I like it's big enough for an adult to get in, but you do have to kind of like playhouse your way into it, you know?
Which would be really funny. Wouldn't it be great to see people like have to crawl into the TARDIS and they sort of vanish?
I love that. I think that's funny.
I think visually that'd be really good fun. But you're right. I also thought this. I've written the note. I want it for my house. So.
Yeah. I want it for my house. And I always thought when I watched this for the first time, I thought that when it shrinks right down, it's like handheld, it's pretty much exactly the same size as the character options toys. And I kind of just assumed that's what they got, but it wasn't. They fully made mini TARDIS props for this.
That is on the TARDIS wiki list of myths. It is not a character options toy.
They did make it, but I just remember thinking, I was like, I've got one of those in my house.
I got that one.
And I think that's so funny. I love how funny Clara finds it. I like when they do things with the TARDIS like this, where they like, or just things in general, where they take something that is a staple in Doctor Who and they completely twist it on its head. Like, I like when the psychic paper doesn't work. I like when the Sonic doesn't do wood. I like when the TARDIS isn't behaving as you think it should.
Yes,
and
agree.
It's one of the best bits of Doctor Who for me. I think it's really, really good.
I so agree with what you just said. Good take, Sam. And the second one, I agree. The toy size one, love it so much. I would pay good money for a proper, like, lovely replica of a TARDIS at that scale.
Like made of wood.
Oh, I'd pay good money for a wooden toy of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
I would pay good money for that. And I love how Clara describes it when she picks it up. She's like, oh my God, that is so adorable. Are you in there? She's so unfazed by it. She's like, oh my God, that is so funny. He's like, no, this is serious.
Well, I was watching it and you're following Clara and she's on the phone. She's like, oh, where have you gone? And I was like, you can see it. It's on the floor. It's on the floor. And then when they pan down, there's like a little wheelbarrow in front of it, like clearly blocking it from her. And I just thought that was so camp. Like it's hiding behind a wheelbarrow.
Really
I don't know why.
funny.
I just thought it was so silly.
And when the Doctor's like giving her directions out of it as well, and he like flaps his hand out and she's like, please don't do that. That is so wrong.
Well, I love, speaking of hands, when he does the Addams Family thing, like when she specifically said Addams Family, I was like, oh my God. And he like sticks his hand out and kind of like, he was ready to like die and give up.
Like,
she was
just
like,
move the TARDIS. And he's like, I can't, there's no power, I can't dematerialize. She's like, Addams Family, move the TARDIS. And he kind of,
and he's like, da 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 dun.
Yes. Brilliant.
It's so good. Really, really good. I love everything about it.
The interior as well, I'll quickly say, is so fab. I know a lot of people say this is their favorite interior. It's probably not my number one, but it's really, really good. Like the kitchen TARDIS. It's so funky. The funky kitchen design. It's a brilliant TARDIS. The spinning roundel, the spinning, hieroglyphics.
The top
of the console.
Of the TARDIS. It's
so gorgeous.
It's my favourite TARDIS, more so because when it was introduced with Matt Smith, it was far too cold. It was always blue lit. It was really empty. But then when Capaldi took the reins, they had all the wooden bookshelves around it. Yeah. It's a lot more warm and like orange and yellow lit. And for me, Capaldi's TARDIS interior, more so than the Coral TARDIS, which is the one I grew up with, is my favourite TARDIS design. Yeah. I love, love, love it.
There were some elements, I think, of some of those panels and stairs that felt a bit like a set to me. Like it felt like if you gave it a good whack, it would break. I can't explain. Some parts of the actual metal console looked very solid, and I felt some bits looked a bit wobbly.
I think the exact opposite because of the Five-ish Doctors. When Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker break into the TARDIS set, and they're like, it's so sturdy. I liked my sets with a bit of wobble to it.
That's very
I
true.
think it's robust.
That's true. And I like the design of the final TARDIS, the Siege Mode TARDIS. Is cool.
I didn't realise until I was like, because I completely, I guess maybe my screen was a bit dark, but it completely passed me by. It's the Pandorica.
Is it?
It's the Pandorica. Look it up. Look up Siege TARDIS.
Is
Siege
it
Mode
exactly
TARDIS.
The same?
It's not exactly the same, but it's very clearly inspired by the Pandorica.
I see.
You know what? I have it as one of my fun facts. I'm so sorry. I was going to save it, but I do say when the TARDIS goes into Sage Mode, it becomes a miniature version of the Pandorica.
Oh, you're right. You know what? It looks very similar, doesn't it?
It's obviously not exactly the same, but it is very, very clearly inspired by the Pandorica.
I knew they'd have this as well. You can buy from Roboto Replicas, who do kind of all the official replicas for Doctor Who, but they're very expensive, but they're very good replicas. Yeah. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can now. You were able to buy a replica Siege TARDIS. It looks, it's just exactly the kind of thing they would do. I don't know how much it was, but it looks heavy.
I always hope when I go into charity shops that I would never wish ill health on anyone. What I do hope is that if someone was to fall to ill health and pass their collection on, that their immediate family wouldn't know what to do with it and they just donate it to a charity shop, because I think that's the only way I'm ever going to be able to afford anything like this, because like you said, they're gorgeous and they're worth all the money because, it's art, but I can't afford it.
You can get a solid brass collector's confession dial, 275. You can get a laser screwdriver, 995. It's a little out of range, isn't it? But as I'll remind the listeners, it's my birthday this week. PO Box. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Another moment that I really enjoyed, when Capaldi manages to successfully kind of shift out the way of the tracks and maybe restore the TARDIS's dimensions, one or the other. He does his little ha, and then he does a little dance. It's that one that's
I love the little dance!
Commonly a GIF, but seeing it said is way better. And I was like, we must go back and screen record this and start replying to everything with this immediately on Wholala.
Yes. I know. I know it so well from the GIF, but I always knew it was from Flatline because obviously he's got the tiny little TARDIS door behind him. But I was looking for that GIF for a Wholala reel recently, and I just couldn't find it in the episode. And then when it came up, I was like, it's the thing.
There it is.
Like every so often, I feel like Doctor Who breaks into main culture. And I feel like I saw people tweeting that weren't within Doctor Who world. It's so good.
It's ambiguous enough where it's happening because it's kind of against a very small TARDIS door. The return of the TARDIS as well is probably my favourite moment of the episode. The speech Capaldi gives, the man who stops the monsters piece, is brilliant, but it's not my favourite moment. The return of the TARDIS that just precedes it, where it turns from a flying cube into a tiny TARDIS, into a big TARDIS, and then it does almost like a little like practice lap, spins out of the tunnel and then back again, and then lands with a thunk and just blasts all of the boneless with its kind of shield energy, and it's just such like a kick-ass, like, yeah, baby, TARDIS is back. And that sizing up and the spinning and the waves of energy it's firing and the big kind of thud sound effect that the TARDIS kind of makes when it lands, that kind of reverberating, very pleasing to me. Very, very pleasing.
It's very,
to me.
very good. I do really like when the TARDIS comes back. It's one of those proper like, I want to think of something a bit more like intellectual to say than this, but it's one of those real Doctor Who moments, you know what I mean, where it's like
Doctor Who moments.
This is one of those Doctor Who moments where you're like, this is nice. Speaking of Doctor Who moments, did you see the clip of young Sheldon from the other night?
I did see the clip from young Sheldon the other night.
That's a Doctor Who moment. That was so funny, and I love that it was period. For anyone who hasn't listened, in young Sheldon there's a scene where Sheldon's trying to use a portaloo, and it's a blue portal, and he's like, I have to get into the right mentality. I am the Doctor and this is my TARDIS. And then it cuts, but it's like, because it's set in the 80s, it cuts to the Sylvester McCoy theme and he's dressed as Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, and everyone's like, it's period. It's so good. They did.
I was thinking as well, it's quite rare that the TARDIS physically saves the day, right? There's moments where we have heroic things the TARDIS can do physically, right? Sometimes we have it like the TARDIS towed the Earth home at the end of Stolen Earth, all that kind of thing.
It will materialize in front of and on top of people to stop them from being hurt.
Yeah, I like that. There's a moment in the 50th where the TARDIS spins through a wall and knocks the Daleks flying out of their casing. That kind of thing I really like, when the TARDIS gets like a physical moment to just batter someone is pleasing to me. It's not the spirit of Doctor Who or indeed the TARDIS, which is kind of
it's fun to watch,
neutral character, but when it does get to do a little battering, which is rare, it is good fun.
It is nice.
I'll finish off, Sam, with two lows. It's unusual we finish with lows, but I forgot to say them. A low for me is Missy using her iPad 2. I don't like it's so clearly an iPad. It's like if she was on, I don't know, her Chromebook. It was so human technology of a particular period in time. It is now like, oh, Missy's iPad has really big bezels, like noticeably so. That is an iPad 2. Like, it's so dated.
It's a really weird choice to not do something to dress it, or not just like,
yes.
You remember in series 1, Chris Eccleston series 1, when Rose is talking to the Doctor and she's on the Dalek ship and there's that screen, but it's kind of like a float, like it's not on glass or anything, it's like a floating screen. Like, I wish they'd just done something like that, because she's literally holding the dailies of Clara when they just wrapped that scene. Yes. And I really like this Missy subplot. I don't think we should dive into it too much in this episode, but I really like this season's arc of like not knowing who she is. But this was definitely the worst of the teasers. She's like, oh, Clara, you make a good Doctor or something. Yes. And then stop. And I was just like, oh.
A specific peeve of mine is where someone is watching something happen through a screen, but they're seeing the same footage we just saw. So like you're seeing the same camera angle, the same color grading, the same lighting.
It's the same kind of thing as when there's a photo prop of a photograph, but it's either a screen grab from a previous episode or one of the promotional photo shoots.
Yes.
And that's really, really
They've done that in
odd.
The Church on Ruby Road, the picture of Ruby.
Her outside the
trailer.
trailer.
The promotional shoot of the unused costume. The other low I have is where I feel like this was maybe like a Moffat insertion. I don't know. But Clara's on the phone to Danny and she's making this nonsense excuse for where she is because Danny doesn't know that she's still traveling with the Doctor. And she's like, I'm just helping someone with something. And there's all this crashing and banging happening, which is in itself quite funny. And then he's like, who are you with? And he's like, oh, it sounds kind of active. And the subtitles are Clara grunts, and down the phone you can hear, and I was like, oh, don't make a sex
she's
gag,
she's trying in the scene. She's like swinging a swing,
yeah,
an interior thing trying to throw stuff out the window. But yeah, I thought the gag itself of like sounds active. It's kind of funny, and I do think I don't think it's a bad joke to have her be like, oh, I'm with someone, don't mind me.
No.
And hear kind of weird noises and him be like, what's going on? But like, I do agree that it's a very like, it feels like a very Moffatism to
it kept happening to Clara specifically.
I think that's the thing. I think if it happened to someone else, if it happened to like Donna, I think I'd find it really funny.
Then it's funny.
But because it's happening to Clara, like even if it was happening to like to Graham or to Yaz or something, I'm like, okay, that's funny. But it's specifically because it's Clara. She's just so hypersexualized that I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I agree. It's something, something I was like, I didn't put it in my low category. That was in my mixed category of like, how do I feel about this one? I mean, I'm not sex negative. I'm not a prude. I'm not just like,
you are not.
They talked about sex. I didn't like it. It just felt like out of place in that moment. It's a very small moment. It's a minor critique.
I get that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you've got high moments, you've got low moments, but I'll tell you what there are a couple of.
What?
There are a couple of camp moments.
I love the camp moments.
Are you ready to play a little game of camp or down? Woo-hoo-hoo. Now, Dr. Clara, camp or damp?
Dr. Clara really can't. What is it specifically that's. It's definitely a high. Is it camp?
For me, I'm kind of now using camp or damp as like good or bad.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes it's specifically camp. Sometimes it's just that it's good.
It's great, but I'm like, is it camp? And I'm really thinking about it. Is it camp? Clara's doctor isn't camp. So I'm torn on this one. I love it. I think it works super well. I think there's probably camp moments within this, camp moments of delivery. I wouldn't say her doctor per se is camp. Her doctor actually channels 9 quite strongly for me at points.
No, I get that.
And that's not a camp doctor.
No, 9's not a camp doctor. I just think that there's something camp in silliness. And I think that her doctor has a lot of silly. So I'd lean it towards the camp.
Clara's sledgehammer? Camp. Clara swinging on that suspended seat? Camp. Clara dropping the whole TARDIS off a shelf. Camp. Clara having a TARDIS in her handbag.
And then, okay, you know what? There you go. That whole list. Clara handbag, TARDIS dropping, Addams Family hand, camp. The last thing I was going to say is Missy's iPad, camp or damp. Missy's
iPad in its own way is camp because it's kind of now giving, on reflection, like Facebook mum. Like, you know how like Facebook mums, they all have, or just mums, have like the leather like folio like opens up when they, you know, with their phones.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the book design, you know, like they don't.
I know what you mean. It's got the little latch and it goes like.
Exactly. They don't lock their screen. Yeah. They close the leather bit because they think that does it. That's kind of what she's giving.
Yeah. Well as Camp or Damp, I do have a couple of fun facts for you about this episode.
Oh.
Now, this is the first time since the classic series that the Doctor had opened the TARDIS doors using the control panel, which I didn't realise. And the sound effect that they use is also the same one in the classic series.
Okay. That's fun. I didn't know that.
I like it. I like the ties to it. One thing that I thought was interesting, which I hadn't really thought about, is that Rigsy was based off the graffiti artist Banksy. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess like in, you know, graffiti artist ever. And then I was like, oh, the name Rigsy Banksy, like it's very, like I can see like a direct influence there. All of Peter Capaldi's filming was changed quite last minute after writing several drafts of the script, as to fit in with the production schedule, he wasn't able to film a lot of his scenes at the same time as Clara was in those scenes. So they then adjusted it so he would have to be away for most of the episode so they could still have dialogue through the earpiece. Now, let me tell you a funny fact off the back of that. Something I didn't notice. I'll read you this one. The Doctor's hair is noticeably shorter in several scenes, starting when the TARDIS falls onto the train track and ending when the TARDIS returns to the surface after the defeat of the Boneless, making it clear these scenes were filmed out of order. When Peter Capaldi had recently undergone a haircut. In his regular column for Doctor Who magazine, embarrassed showrunner Stephen Moffat admitted to this continuity goof, and that it was because of scheduling. There you go. I do think the scheduling played a big part in the ups and downs of this season at points. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I didn't notice it either, to be fair. One thing I found interesting just on the scheduling thing is that Jamie Matheson, who was the writer of this episode, he wrote this, which is one of the last few, I think it might be the fourth to last episode in the series. And then off the back of this script, he was then asked to write the script for Mummy on the Orient Express, which is way earlier. I was like, oh, was Mummy on the Orient Express the next season? No, it's in the same season and earlier, but it's because of his work on this episode. They were like, oh, do you also want to write this one, which is earlier in the season? I just thought that was quite funny.
Mummy on the Orient Express the one they double banked with? I think these were the two being filmed together, was Mummy and Flatline.
Maybe.
So I think he was in a way writing both parts of a double bank, and I wonder how often that happens for a non-showrunner writing.
That is interesting. I didn't in my experience, if you're doing multiple blocks of filming, you often have the same director, first assistant director, script supervisor, but there'll be different writers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to be having a block of filming with the same writer. That's not something particularly common in my understanding.
And I didn't think of Mummy on the Orient Express as one they would have filmed separately, but now I think about it, the Doctor and Clara are in different carriages for a lot of it. Those sneaky bastards. A funny scheduling fact from my end, Sam.
Oh.
I'm playing fun fact tennis with you this week.
You are?
Filming was halted for a day because Jenna Coleman was attending the Glamour Women of the Year Awards ceremony where she was named Best UK TV Actress.
Aww.
And that's camp.
That is camp. That's the campest part of this episode.
Yeah.
I'm looking that up. Glamour UK TV Awards 2014.
And if you have a look, I think you'll find that she has a very similar length hair to what she has in this episode.
Oh, bless her. This awards show, Matt Smith was one who presented her award. And she just... That's so funny that, like, the day before she was filming Doctor Who with Peter Capaldi, and then Matt Smith is the one that presents her award.
Ah, that's nice.
It's a very Flatline haircut that she has.
Do you want, like, a last fun fact from me? Do you want fun fact A or fun fact B?
There's two. Give me fun fact A first.
A version of the shrunken TARDIS prop was made out of moulded rubber parts so they could drop the TARDIS without breaking it, but they used the wrong one during filming. So they used the one made out of resin and they broke it.
That's a very Doctor Who thing to happen, I think.
A very Doctor Who thing to happen. Okay, B is there was actually a cut scene, they dropped it in editing, where the Doctor boosts Clara's cell phone signal so that the survivors of the community crew could call their loved ones. Rigsy declared he had no one to call, while Fenton admitted the person he wanted to phone would hang up on him. As a result, Rigsy offered to make the call for him, and the subsequent dialogue implying that he spoke to the mother of Fenton's daughter. Bit of depth for you there.
Oh, I like that, because I do feel like he was just a twat. And had no redeeming qualities. And that might have, like, you know, what I don't like about him is that he started a twat and ended as a twat.
Yes.
And I think maybe he needed a little bit of that development. So I got that they were, you know, limited to the time they had, but could have done with the development.
He was the sort of opposite of our friend from the council from Fear Her.
Very that. Kel from the council.
Kel from
Very
the
opposite.
council.
Kel from the council. Council Kel.
That is a
Exactly.
council vein.
In a council X, on a council road. I'm reporting you to the council.
He was the anti-that.
He was very anti-that, yeah. Well, thank you so much, dear listener, for listening to this whistle-stop tour. I say whistle-stop tour, we've gone a little bit overboard in this episode, but that's okay, more for you.
That's a bit heavy, actually.
It was a little bit of a heavier episode. Our not-so-whistle-stop tour of Flatline. Now, next week, we are going to be doing a little bit of a show and tell, and that's all I want to say about that. You're going to have to wait till next week to find out.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? You will find out next Thursday on Wholala. But in the meantime, please reach out to us. Let us know what you thought of this episode on all of our social platforms. That's Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, all of which are at Wholala Pod. And you can also listen to old episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel, also at Wholala Pod.
Yes, please remember to listen to the entire back catalogue every week before you listen to our new episode, bumping up our streams. If you'd like an easier task than that, if you're not feeling listening to 74 episodes, you can just rate the podcast 5 stars. That is roughly as helpful. You can also share the podcast with a friend, someone you think might enjoy the pod, and you can say, check out this podcast. It's pretty camp. We appreciate that. You can share the latest episode to your story. You can engage with us on the socials and tell us what your favourite bit was. We always appreciate a good screen recording, don't we, Sam? That's our favourite bit.
We love it. When people send us tweets of things that they just think we'd find funny, it is my favourite thing
it's my favourite
in the world.
thing.
I love it. Please keep doing it.
And corrections and clarifications, those are always welcome to our inbox. We get those semi-regularly.
Oh, we do get those as well. But again, always welcome. Keeps the interaction going.
It keeps it going. It keeps us busy.
It keeps it going.
Don't forget to enter our giveaway competition. You've got a little bit more time to do it. And we'd love to see you win a table with a bottle of Prosecco. I think the free Prosecco is what really sells it for me. We'll come over and make sure it's nice, and you can give us a little bit of a sip.
We'll have a little sippy of seki. No, please do enter our giveaway at HulalaPod on our Instagram. The entries close on May the 3rd, and we look forward to seeing the winner there.
Oh, very much so. We look forward to seeing you there. Look forward to seeing you all there, my friends.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.